Israel Defense Force, intelligence, and border police units were deployed overnight to arrest what their statement said were a number of suspects across the West Bank, going after Palestinian terror cells with the counter-terror operations that are carried out across the territory. Now, IDF forces had re-entered Janine for the first time since a major operation last month, just the previous night, as we again see a robust counter-terror activity, despite what's been perceived as ramped-up activity by Palestinian Authority security forces. That's, again, after the IDF took steps to roll back the dominant rival jihadist groups in that major operation last month. So we're joined in the studio now by our Middle East correspondent, Aria Osaran, take a closer look. Look, first of all, what's known about what happened overnight, the IDF and security forces activity?
Yeah, so David, this is your regular nightly activity across the West Bank in multiple points, an attempt to arrest suspects involved in terror activity or those who are planning terror activity. Now, in the multiple points of activity, a total of 10 suspects have been arrested. Most of the activity was in the northern part of the West Bank near Nablus area, the Balata refugee camp, but also in the Hebron and Bethlehem areas. There were also raids, clashes erupted also east of Ramallah and Deir Dibwan. So but none of this is unusual. I mean, in addition to the arrests and clashes, they also apprehended weapons. And this is part of the ongoing Israeli attempt to try and curtail any development of the different capabilities or organizational capacity of these different groups, terror elements across the West Bank. Hence, we're seeing nightly activity. What was unique until at least yesterday, that for a string of weeks, Israel didn't operate in Janine. Yesterday was the first time it did so since the operation in the beginning of last month. They did not enter the refugee camp, which is notable, but this is part of an attempt to try and at least part of the playing field to give to the Palestinian security forces for them to reassert their security authority.
Has that been happening in the last few weeks? I mean, have we seen signs of that? I know there was some activity reported. What's it look like?
So it's not at the same capacity, we could say, as Israeli forces, but indeed in key parts of the West Bank, mainly Janine, mainly Nablus, Palestinian security forces have ramped up their activity. There's dozens of arrests of Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad militants. This is something that is causing a lot of internal tension in the Palestinian street, a lot of criticism towards the PA that they're cooperating with Israel. This comes at a time where just a couple days ago, the Palestinian factions met in Cairo to try and bring upon reconciliation.
Leadership, Ismail Haniyeh and President Abbas meeting in Cairo. I haven't seen that in a long time.
So, I mean, it did happen in Turkey last week, but prior to that, it was 5 years.
Before this time period.
Indeed, it is very rare. But the sides didn't agree. Mainly the sides I'm talking about, Hamas and Fatah, in those talks, they didn't agree on what is the legitimate form of resistance. Obviously, Hamas championing armed resistance.
Divergent views on that.
While Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas adamant in his at least open public endorsement of non-violent resistance. Another is international legitimacy, the importance of that. So we're seeing a continued, obviously, disagreements among Palestinian leadership, and this amplified surge or attempt by Palestinian security forces to reassert their control indeed is not helping those efforts.
In short, what's going on in the Gaza Strip? While all this is so much attention on the West Bank right now, the security front, as we've been focused on for months and months and months, it's been virtually quiet, silent on the Gaza border, which we're unaccustomed to. Yet we're also seeing protests inside Gaza. How can you summarize what's up with Gaza?
Well, the protests that we're seeing in Gaza now, these aren't the same protests that you're seeing in Tel Aviv on the end of every weekend, 30 weeks in a row. It's not the same scale at all. And you'd be surprised, but usually on the day-to-day, Hamas does allow limited protests to kind of let the public vent. But there's a lot of criticism towards Hamas over the energy crisis. There's a problem with electricity. The power plant there hasn't been given sufficient sufficient fuel to run and to operate. These are very hot months. In Gaza these days, there's up to 6 hours of electricity, and they're protesting against that, saying that the Qataris are giving us $10 million a month for gas. We are also paying $10 million for this fuel for the power plant. Where is the money going? Why aren't we getting our electricity?
Good question.
And just a few moments ago, the head of the energy authority in Gaza said that through a donation from Qatar, additional fuel has arrived, which will increase the capacity of the power plant there. Again, not even remotely close to the needs of the population there.
We'll keep our eyes on that as well. All right, Osira, thanks for being with us.